I should have never gone back to that place. But the nightmares wouldn't stop. For weeks, I woke up drenched in sweat, my sheets tangled around my body as if I'd been struggling against something in my sleep. And always the same dream: dark corridors, the groaning sound of rusted machines, and the sight of toys being torn apart in ways no toy should ever be. I used to work there, the toy factory. A place that once smelled of fresh paint, oil, and cheap plastic. It was noisy, exhausting, but simple work. I thought I had left it all behind when the company shut down after too many accidents. But those dreams dragged me back. They felt less like dreams and more like memories. So one night, against my better judgment, I went. The factory stood like a carcass at the edge of the city, swallowed by weeds and silence. The massive sign at the entrance, letters once painted bright red, was now faded, half hanging, creaking in the wind. I remember standing at the gate, holding the bolt cutters with trembling hands. My breath was shallow. Every instinct screamed at me to leave. But I cut through the chain anyway, the sound snapping like a gunshot in the still night. Inside, the air was colder, heavier, like stepping into another world. My flashlight beam swept across the floor, catching broken toys scattered like corpses of a forgotten war. Headless dolls, eyeless teddy bears, cars with melted wheels. I stepped carefully, each crunch of glass beneath my boots echoing through the hollow building. At first, it was quiet, too quiet. But as I walked deeper into the factory, past the assembly lines and conveyor belts, I thought I heard something, a faint hum. Almost like the machines were still alive, still working somewhere in the dark. I told myself it was just the wind, or rats, or the weight of the old place settling around me. But then I smelled it, burnt rubber and singed fabric, so strong it clawed its way down my throat. My stomach turned. That smell was unmistakable. It was the same scent that used to fill the air after an accident when something or someone got caught in the machines. I froze. My flashlight flickered, then steadied. The shadows seemed to shift around me, and that's when I saw it. A teddy bear, sitting upright in the middle of the floor. Its fur was matted, darkened with stains that could only be blood. The stuffing from its stomach spilled out in a grotesque imitation of entrails, and yet it was smiling. My first thought was that some vandal had left it there, but when I blinked, the bear wasn't just sitting, it twitched, just slightly. Enough for me to question my own sanity. I backed away, my heart pounding against my ribs. And as I turned down the next hallway, I caught something in the corner of my eye. Another toy, crushed beneath a heavy press, its button eyes staring blankly upward. The machines weren't running, but I swear I could hear the gears grinding. I could hear the screams hidden beneath the whir of steel. And I hadn't even reached the heart of the factory yet. I should have turned back right then, but something pulled me deeper. The corridors seemed longer than I remembered, the walls stained with rust and watermarks that looked disturbingly like handprints. My flashlight caught glimpses of machinery covered in dust, yet every so often, I swore I saw fresh grease glistening on the gears, as if they had been used just moments before. That humming sound returned, low, steady, mechanical. It seemed to come from everywhere at once, vibrating in my bones. I followed it, against all reason, until I reached the main assembly floor. And that's when I saw the first vision. It began faintly, like shadows flickering against the walls. Then, suddenly, the floor wasn't abandoned anymore. I was standing in the middle of a working factory, the machines roaring, the conveyor belts moving. Workers in their uniforms rushed around me, shouting orders, carrying boxes of toys. For a moment, I thought I had slipped back in time. But then it happened. A scream tore through the noise. One of the workers, a man I recognized, though my mind couldn't quite place his name, was dragged into a machine. His arm caught in the gears, pulling him in. I tried to move, tried to shout, but my body was frozen. I watched as blood sprayed across the conveyor belt, mixing with torn fabric and shards of plastic. His face twisted in agony, then he was gone. The vision snapped out of existence, leaving me alone in silence, trembling, my flashlight shaking in my grip. But the blood was still there. It soaked into the floor, a dark stain that hadn't been there seconds ago. I wanted to believe it was just my mind playing tricks, some cruel trick of memory. But then I saw another toy, a doll, her porcelain face cracked, one glass eye missing. She lay beneath a pile of scrap metal, her small body twisted unnaturally. And then, just like before, I saw the accident. The memory came alive in front of me, a woman, my coworker Maria, screaming as the overhead crane dropped its load too soon. I remembered her eyes wide with terror, the sound of bones breaking beneath steel. I never forgot it. But seeing it again, here, as if it were happening in real time, it was unbearable. I staggered back, clutching my head, trying to block it out, but the visions kept coming. Toys mutilated in ways that mirrored the deaths of my former colleagues. A stuffed rabbit missing its head, just like the young man who slipped into the cutting machine. A toy soldier, burnt and melted, just like the electrician who was electrocuted when the wiring failed. Each vision hit me harder than the last, and each time, the toys were there afterward, grinning through their ruin, as if mocking me. I began to hear whispers then, faint at first, like static, but they grew louder. Words I couldn't quite make out, spoken in voices I recognized. The voices of the dead, my coworkers, my friends. "Why did you leave us?" one whispered. "You saw what happened," another hissed. "You didn't help." The guilt crushed me more than the silence ever could. My chest tightened, my throat burned. I wanted to scream back, to tell them I couldn't have done anything, that I was just a worker like them. But deep down, I wasn't sure if that was true. The shadows thickened, pressing closer, the air heavy with the stench of burned plastic and rotting fabric. My flashlight flickered again, sputtering out for a moment. In that split second of darkness, I felt something brush against my leg. When the light returned, I looked down, and the teddy bear was there again, sitting at my feet. This time, it was smiling wider. By then, I wasn't sure if I was awake or still dreaming. The line between memory and reality had dissolved into something far more sinister. The teddy bear didn't move. Not at first. It just stared at me, its button eyes glinting in the pale beam of my flashlight. But I could feel it breathing. Each second stretched into eternity as the whispers around me rose into a chorus. I backed away, my boots crunching on shards of broken plastic. The air grew thicker, choking me with a metallic stench of blood and rust. My hand brushed against a switch on the wall, one I remembered from my working days, and before I realized what I was doing, I pulled it down. The factory came alive. Lights flickered overhead, casting sickly yellow halos across the floor. The machines roared back to life, conveyor belts screeching, hydraulic presses pounding. The sound was deafening. I staggered, covering my ears, but it was no use. The visions weren't visions anymore. They were everywhere. Workers screaming, toys screaming. The two sounds tangled together until I couldn't tell them apart. I saw faces I had tried so hard to forget, faces crushed, burned, ripped apart. Their eyes locked onto me, accusing, hollow. And then I understood. The toys weren't just toys. They were vessels. Each one carried the suffering of the workers who had died here. Their souls were trapped, stitched into fabric and plastic, condemned to replay their last moments over and over again. And I was the intruder who had dared to disturb their endless torment. The teddy bear climbed to its feet, slowly, clumsily, as if learning to walk for the first time. Its torn stomach leaked stuffing that twitched like it was alive. Its smile never changed. It raised its paw, no, its hand, and pointed at me. The machines obeyed. The floor trembled as conveyor belts shifted beneath my feet, pulling me forward. I struggled, but the ground itself seemed determined to drag me deeper into the factory's heart. The presses slammed down inches from my head, sparks raining down like fire. The whispers turned into screams, my name echoing again and again. "Join us! Join us! Join us!" I ran. I don't even remember how. I just remember the pounding of my boots, the tearing pain in my lungs, the blood rushing in my ears. But no matter where I turned, the factory twisted itself around me, corridors bending into impossible shapes, staircases leading back to where I started. At last, I stumbled into the break room, the one place I thought might still hold a fragment of normalcy. The air was stale, the tables overturned, coffee mugs shattered on the floor. And sitting in the center of the room was another toy, a small wooden horse. One I remembered. It had belonged to Daniel, the youngest worker, barely 18. He'd died on his first week, crushed under a pallet of supplies. I'd been there when it happened. The horse's head tilted. Its eyes, two painted black dots, seemed to bore into me. And then it spoke. "You left us here." I dropped my flashlight. The beam rolled across the floor, landing on the reflection in the vending machine's glass. And that's when I saw it. Not my reflection, but me, sitting on the floor, stuffed. My body sewn with stitches, my skin replaced by fabric, my eyes black buttons gleaming back at me. I screamed, but no sound came out. The factory swallowed my voice. And now, when I close my eyes at night, I don't dream anymore. I just remember, because I never really left that place. I'm still there. And if you ever hear the hum of machines in the dark, don't follow it.
Subscribe to Horror Story Bar.